We spend so much time fighting to hold on, we barely notice when life is quietly asking us to let go. There's a point when the harder we cling, the more we bleed. But when we release, when we surrender to what is, something remarkable happens. It's as if the weight we've carried was never ours to bear in the first place. You'll know this feeling not by the sound of victory, but by the silence that follows when you finally stop chasing what was never meant to stay. You see, the Stoics didn't teach us to wait for a higher power to save us. They taught us that the higher power is discipline itself. It's that unseen strength that shows up when life begins to fall apart. When friends disappear, when doors close, when love fades, that's when the real power begins to reveal itself, not through rescue, but through revelation. And if you've ever felt that eerie calm in the middle of your worst storm, that was no accident. That was the higher power cloaked in your own resilience. Think back to those times when everything you wanted slipped away. The job, the relationship, the chance you swore would change everything. It vanished, and in the moment it felt like failure, like the universe had turned its back on you. But if you stood still long enough, if you stopped running and just looked around, you noticed something, didn't you? The path ahead was clearer. Your mind was sharper. You became quieter, stronger. Seneca wasn't lying when he said setbacks clear the way for greater fortune. What's stripped away is often the very thing that was keeping us blind. So when life pulls something from your grasp, don't curse the loss. See the redirection, because what if that door stayed open? What if that relationship never ended? What if that success came too soon? Would you have grown? Would you have known who you really are? Or would you have stayed small, comfortable, ignorant to your own potential? Sometimes rejection is the only language the higher power speaks. It tells us not yet, not this way, not with these people. And if you can hear that, if you can feel that in the middle of your disappointment, then you're already protected. There's also that strange shift when you stop reacting to everything. Insults, betrayals, manipulations, things that used to send you into a frenzy, they just don't anymore. It's not that people stopped being cruel. Well, it's that you stopped giving them your power. Epictetus said it plain. It's not what happens to you, but how you judge it that disturbs you. And when you really absorb that, when it's not just a clever quote, but a way of life, you become untouchable. You don't need to yell back. You don't need to post about it. You don't even need to explain. Your stillness is your shield. There is a power in not reacting, in observing quietly, in watching the chaos swirl around you while your feet stay planted. That stillness isn't just maturity, it's protection, because no enemy can win against someone who refuses to play their game. That's the inner citadel Marcus Aurelius spoke of, a fortress no one can breach because it's built from perception, from understanding that everything external is just noise unless you invite it in. And when you've built that, when your peace no longer depends on someone else's behavior, then you've built something that can't be taken. Then comes the hardest part, walking alone. Life has this habit of pruning, of removing people, opportunities, connections, and at first it feels like punishment, like abandonment. But those who live by higher principles know better. Solitude is where the real work happens, when the crowd disappears, when the applause stops. That's when you find yourself. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that poverty isn't having too little, it's craving more. So when life strips you of the unnecessary, of the distractions, it's not making you poor. It's making you rich in clarity. And in that clarity, you begin to see what was always there, but hidden beneath the noise, the truth of who you are. Not the version people applauded, not the image you tried to uphold, but the core, the soul, untouched and unshaken. And when you meet that version of yourself, something changes. You no longer crave the validation, the company, the busy rooms filled with empty laughter. Your own silence becomes your companion. And in that silence, you become untouchable. This isn't loneliness. This is elevation. Solitude isn't the absence of connection. It's the presence of self. When you're forced to walk alone but feel no fear, that's protection. It's life removing the distractions, the leeches, the false friends, so you can finally see who's been with you all along. You, your principles, your strength. That is the quiet gift of being left alone, the sacred space where you discover the force inside you that no one can ever take away. And then there's the strangest sign of all, when life takes something from you, something you thought you couldn't live without. And after the initial sting, the rage, the grief, you breathe easier. It doesn't make sense at first. You wonder why you're not as broken as you thought you'd be, but that's the lesson. Some things are removed not because you were strong enough to let go, but because you weren't. So life did it for you, Seneca said. He who is brave is free. And sometimes bravery is just letting go. Even when your hands are raw and bleeding from the grip, you don't always recognize protection when it's happening, because it doesn't feel like a blessing. It feels like loss, like rejection, like failure. But if your soul feels lighter after losing something you begged to keep, know this: you've just been spared. Life saw the storm ahead, the weight you couldn't see, and turned your face gently toward the sun. It didn't ask your permission because it knew you'd resist, but it did it anyway, because some paths you're meant to walk can only be walked free of the chains you didn't even know you carried. So if any of this resonates, if you felt the sting of loss, the ache of solitude, the burn of rejection, but deep down you feel a peace you can't explain, understand this: that is not weakness, that is not defeat, that is the higher power moving through you, not as a savior from the skies, but as the discipline, the clarity, the invincible spirit that Stoicism cultivates. It's the part of you that was built for the storm, not to escape it, but to walk through it untouched. And if you're still standing, if you're still here, then it's working. You're being protected, shaped, and sharpened into someone even you didn't know you could become. So keep going, keep standing still when the world tries to provoke you. Keep walking alone when the crowd leaves. Keep letting go when life pries your fingers open, because every step, every loss, every rejection is just another brick in the fortress of your mind. And when that fortress is built, nothing and no one can break you. Stay sharp, stay silent, and keep walking. The storm was never meant to stop you. It was meant to reveal you.